Don't you want to hit your mic? That'll probably take care of that side of the room.
And all right, so what, 11/14, February 11th, Morgan RPO, actual or RPO official meeting, not the COG working group. Go around doing introductions just so we have it recorded when we pull up we write up the minutes. That way it makes it easier for us. So why don't you start, Ryan, and we'll go around the table.
Ryan Halverson, Region 1 Planning Manager for UDOT.
Jay Mosqueda, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Long Range Planning Group.
Jory Johnner, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Ty Bailey, Morgan City Manager.
Kate Becker, Morgan County Manager.
Lance Prescott, Morgan City Streets Department Manager.
Steve Gale, Morgan City Mayor.
All right, perfect. All right, so for today's agenda, we have introductions, check. We were going to approve August 24th meeting minutes. We haven't had an RPO meeting since then. We keep kind of bumping them and just utilizing the time for the COG working group, which I think is fine. We wanted to get the prioritization stuff done. I think we got all that squared up so you guys can get it on the, hopefully you got it on the COG agenda today. So we don't have a quorum and we're still waiting for some county appointments. So we'll just wait until I think the next meeting's in April. So sideline item 2 here. Since we're an official committee, open public comment, and I do not see anybody here, so move forward with that one. And I don't see anybody online. We had put let me zoom in on this, it's a little small. The RPO 101. Kate, what we can do is put that on the next agenda. It was mostly just for the new members, the new county commissioners to kind of understand the different role between the RPO and the COG working group, how often this group meets. We could go over those bylaws, send them any information. What I would recommend, and this is kind of down the list a little bit, item 6 would be the Wasatch Front new member orientation. That's on February 27th. So hopefully that's on. What I would recommend is it's not just for new members. It's good reminder for every elected official or staff member. I think at our last year's new member orientation, we had over 100 people attend. It's all online virtual, so they can just listen in. It's less than an hour and a half, but it covers every single program that WFRC does. So I'll be talking about the regional transportation plan for less than probably 5 to 10 minutes max. So it's super condensed, everything that we do, but it's just a good highlight of all of the councils.
Did my newbies get it?
Hopefully they did.
Okay, because we had an issue last week with the Safe Streets for All grant email because that went to my old commissioners.
Okay.
And
Can you make a note, Jay, to we can
so
we
I
should
didn't
make
get
sure
it
all of
until
our
the day it was due.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's when it finally got forwarded to me.
And we'll verify that the new county commissioners are replaced, and we'll make sure that the appointments at least match the draft version until something gets finalized.
So you'll send out that information to everybody.
It
for
should
this
be on the
training?
calendar, so if you don't have it on your
Don't have
February
it.
27th, we can reach out to Jordan and find out who all that got sent out. I had kind of assumed it got sent out to every one of our members and not just the new members, because it's a good reminder yearly of what we do.
The mayor will be in St. George.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's Zoom, right?
yeah, so if you can jump on.
To have a brief minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll be driving, so I'll drive, you can listen.
We'll just turn it on speaker and we can both.
Man,
Hopefully you can view the.
don't fall asleep, the slides. And all the information's on the WFRC website. So what we can do, Jay, is we can send out at least last year's stuff because it has the presentation, has a recorded version, I think, so somebody could listen to at least last year's, but it'll be updated a little this year. Yeah, the intent of item 4 there was to just get them updated on what our goals were, what we're doing. So I think everybody around the table here is on board. Is there any questions on the 101 or kind of what the RPO is?
Excited to take it.
Okay, good. All right. So main role of the RPO is to work on the long-range plan for the county, pretty much. It's the county and the city. So Che and I have put together a timeline. We've got a list of tasks and current projects. So you guys had worked on this a little while ago. There is a county plan that the RPO did. We're looking to update that. And as we go through this, you know, it weaves in nicely and coordinates with the Utah's Unified Transportation Plan and the state's rural transportation plan, things like that. And then we have some questions about specifically on 5D and 5E there. Future workshops, like if we want one, who would we want to invite beyond this, outside of this group, to kind of get ideas on land use and transportation, and then also what other kind of public input. So want to pick all your brains on those two things. But what we can do is first look at, let's see, the timeline here. I keep putting these tabs up. Let me see. Zoom in. Is that big enough, or you want me to go one bigger? There we go. Because we don't really have anything in status. So pretty much the agenda today is go over the timeline, review any tasks we want to do. We have a list of the current projects on this map, and maybe we can stand around the map and look at it, see if there's any new additional input or ideas or updates that you guys want us to consider. We've pulled together, we have some safety data that we'll pull up and share. Jay will go through that. And then, like I mentioned, go over outreach efforts and future workshop. Our overall schedule is we think we can do this in this year. And so that weaves in nicely, like I said, with the state's plan. So the next meeting, we switched January and February's RPO. And so unless anybody wants to kind of keep it on a quarterly, we just kept the April RPO meeting. And so the next RPO meeting would be April 14th. We'd review city and county active transportation master plans, the Utah Trail Network. They just did the effort to get ideas and input on the Utah Trail Network, and hopefully here in the next couple of months we'll have input on that. These all feed into the long-range plan. We'd like to look at your land use. And as an AOG, our office is doing right in the midst of population employment projection updates. So the county will get population employment projections from the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. And it's that then gets refined down to a smaller scale, either by city or by area traffic analysis zones or census blocks within a city or the county. And then update the Wasatch Choice Vision map. So Morgan County is part of the greater Wasatch Choice Vision. It includes all the way from Brigham City down to Payson. And then the width-wise, it includes Tooele Valley, so out like the Grantsville in that area. And then the Wasatch back, which includes Eastern Weber County, Morgan, Summit, and I think Wasatch. And what we've identified on there are, one of the main focuses the centers, where centers are different types of centers, some mixed use, right? So city centers, town centers, and then some other centers, which include special districts or employment centers. And we'd like to review that with you all. We're currently doing an update of the Wasatch Choice Vision centers along the Wasatch front. But it's a good time just to update the centers on the backside, just to see if there's any refinement that you guys all think there. We look at our evaluation criteria, so how we want to review projects that go into the plan, including like what projects get selected, what evaluation criteria we want for that, and then also when, right? Like the phasing. So the idea is to kind of match up with the state's plan and the WFRC plans, the long range plans up on the Wasatch front. Our planning process is going to go from 2027 to 2055. And that'll match up with the unified plan. So I think it probably makes sense to do everything on that same similar scale. So it's just seamless. And we look at evaluation criteria of not only project selection, like I said, but also, the decades, the phasings of when projects are needed. And then review, any performance measure categories. Like, how do we want to review these projects and how they're performing? And then in August, so then this is kind of the schedule. April, August is what we chose. So that's not a 3-month schedule. We bumped it. We switched July and August because I think there's some stuff in the July calendar that we needed the COG working group for. So we moved this one to an August 11th meeting. We'd review, again, the project level evaluation. So we'd take all the projects that we had gotten, evaluate them, work with you all on that, to evaluate the projects in this meeting, review the draft preferred scenario and exploratory categories. And so there's some projects that might fit in that. And then maybe have public input. And so that's, again, a part of the question is, when in this process does it make sense to have the public input? Do we have it in the August timeframe, or should we have it in the October timeframe? Is it better to get it a little earlier before we've got it set? Or do you want to have a more firm agreement on, this is the type of projects we want, this is when, okay, we think it's draft, and then we want to get input on it. So think about that a little bit. Does it, when we want it, or we can do both, right? It's pretty easy to do input with virtual interactive maps where people can go in and just make comments versus attending at a library or the city building and standing here for an hour and a half waiting, seeing if people want to come in and draw on a map, right? So there's 2 different versions of this. So when we get to that item, think about those things. Is when do we want to have them both, one or the other, and how we want to get that input. And then in October, again, review the draft phased plan. So identifying when projects are needed. That way, when UDOT gets them, they have an idea of the priorities in this area. And then the state's plan, when they kind of roll things up, they'll have an assumed amount of revenue they can, for all of the rural parts of the state, and they can kind of financially constrain projects. And then we'll look at the performance measures. And then question would be for this group, does the final approval need to go to the COG for the RPO? That'd be not 100% sure on the process wise, who would approve the plan, or does the RPO as a board, the 7 members, approve that and we're good? Or do you guys think it makes sense that the board does and then we take it to the COG for, or even, how do you guys want to get that approval?
But I think the RPO finishes the plan and proposes it to each city and county.
Okay,
So city council and county commission. So the COG only has those few limited recommendations on funding. So on corridor preservation and third quarter.
okay.
And so we have the COG working groups informal. That the RPO is interlocal agreement, but I think because it's interlocal, the authority is individually the council and the commission. We can let the COG be aware of this is what we came up with, but
The RPO is the one that
the
approves
RPO
it.
is a standalone.
Okay,
It does the legwork for the transportation, it feeds into COG, but I think on approvals, the RPO doesn't have its own authority.
okay.
I don't know that any authority was designated.
But the RPO can approve the plan,
Yeah.
inform the city and the
Yeah, we
county,
could say
the
this is what
COG,
we came up
county or
with
the
our
COG.
plan, and then do you adopt it?
Okay,
I think we just adopt it by resolution, and then I think that's how we did the last one.
okay. No, that's good to know. Appreciate it, Ty. And then obviously incorporation into the UDOT rural long-range plan, which is important because that's where actually projects, on at least state projects, need to be on as part of the Unified Transportation Plan. And then they can get prioritized through the prioritization process and funded, right? So if, maybe looking out a little far, but like the Morgan or the Mountain Green interchange, right? It's currently in the plan. I'm not sure if it's, I don't think it's, I can't remember if it's in phase 1 of the plan. And so like, if it's important of the county, then, you know, I could foresee that project being a phase 1 need by the county recommendation. UDOT would then review that, and see if they can work that in to have it as part of a phase 1 financially constrained, which gives them a way better chance to get it. Well, if it's on phase 1 of the financial constraint, it's automatically included in the prioritization process, which then makes it eligible for transportation investment funds, funding, and things like that. So that'd be something we need to, as we get looking at this, like which projects are really the priorities, and even, you know, helps with the priorities of the city and the county as we look at some of the big projects across the region.
So I just have one comment is that if we go to the October meeting and it's final approval time and we just sort of throw that on the city council and the county commissioners, don't they need to come along?
That's where I think
Right.
asking
I'm-
here,
I'm
this
correcting
future, this
because-
outreach efforts and future workshops and input.
Still has
So,
Jared.
it's a very good question. Workshop wise, in the Wasatch Front area, we just came off of a fall workshop series where we invited every single mayor, city council member, planning commissioner, and key staff for sub areas across the region. So we had 8 of them, from like 1 in Box Elder, 2 in Weber, 2 in Davis, and 3 in Salt Lake County, and invited everybody. We held tabletop exercises, got input on the projects, got them up to speed on the process. And I like that idea. But I think this group, I would like all of your input to see if that makes sense. If you guys would like to do that, if you can help us generate a list of invitees, a time that works best, you know, to invite everybody, things like that. Because you're right, I think, Mayor, if you're gonna take it to the county or the city and they haven't seen it, then like,
Yeah, it seems to me like we could update things throughout the year so that they're aware of
Okay.
what's being discussed. Bring it to the city council for information and also to the county commissioners for information because if we spring it on in October, then it's kind of, wait a minute, what's going on?
how often do you think, like, at each step of the process as we're like, or do you think once at the beginning to get their input, we can digest it, review things, put it through our criteria, come back out to them? Or do you think each month we'll want to?
Well, we possibly need a city councilman here. And we probably should have county commissioners here. Some of them.
So maybe if we held like one workshop, at least invite all the city council, county commissioners, other key staff from the city and the county, if you would like some other key staff.
For this meeting?
No, not for this, just to review and provide input on the projects.
Yeah,
It's hit
Well-
and miss. I mean, most of the time, like, at least along the Wasatch Front, we'd get 2 planning commissioners and a city council member and like 3 or 4 staff, right? Because they could be economic development, they could be a planner or an engineer, or their public works.
So are we able to move this meeting time?
It wouldn't be this meeting, I don't think. We could do it at this meeting, or we could hold a separate workshop where it's just focused on getting input from that group, right? And then this group would be like focusing in on the schedule that we've got here of,
I have several of my commissioners I know would want to participate, but it would have to be after.
right.
1
Yeah, our
p.m.
ones that we did were like 4 to 6. We kind of skirted the
yeah.
evening because we didn't want to make it at night, because then staff members and all you guys are like, really, I got to stay till 9 o'clock. Yeah, fair. And that's another, I mean, do you pair it up or do it as a part of they pair it up with the COG meeting? So like, all right, we're already getting the COG members there. Let's invite others, but do like a working session before for an hour or
Great.
like
If we
something
can
like that.
Mix it with COG, because then we'll also have school.
Yeah, that would be good.
School
School
board
people.
input.
Okay.
I just think that if we're asking for their approval, and if we just wait till October to spur it all on, then they're
I would
going,
do it.
wait a minute.
Right.
Um, Selfish ask still, are we changing the meeting time? Because I'm sending you an email with to remove Jared and add Raylene and Vaughn and update all the city email addresses since they changed.
Oh, the .gov, the
Yeah.
.utah.gov.
So
Okay.
since I'm sending that email already, are we okay with changing this time and what are we changing the time to?
Jay and I can do
Can we
anytime Mondays.
do it right before COG?
You want to do it on the COG day? Because that doesn't give,
Only if
the only issue with that is if the COG working group,
I just
We
need
had
to have it
scheduled it
at
a week
least after
before.
2 to get one of mine there.
okay, so we could do the week before, we could still do the same days that we've
Yeah,
got
I'm
for
fine with
this,
the days.
just-
I just need to change. the
Just
time.
change it from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And if that works for Ryan and the rest of you, then we're good.
Okay, then
WFRC is good with
I'm
that.
just putting that note in the email so that you guys can handle, it, since you guys are in charge of the calendar on that.
Yeah, we can get it changed.
So I have you
You're good with us? Changing into, you said 2?
do.
2, you okay?
I'm good.
And you can check Brett's calendar.
Yeah,
Great.
he's free.
Ryan, you good?
He's fine.
All right.
He's-
Yeah, we'll get the
he's
calendar
ropey.
updated for the working, we'll leave it on the same days.
Yep. So
Um,
the email I'm sending you just lists the new email addresses to remove Jaren and then update the meeting time to 2.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
and I'm sending it to you, Chain and Julie, right?
Send it to Jordan also, Jordan
Jordan.
Chandler, yeah.
Good God.
She'll be the one that actually makes a change. You can
Howard?
send it to me and I'll forward it to her if you'd
Oh.
like.
Jordan,
Chandler,
Excuse me, Jordon.
negative.
okay, I'll send it to her then.
Okay.
I'm surprised you don't get emails from her.
I
'cause-
put it in.
Okay, you got notes too, okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we will, Jay and I'll go back and figure out like when it makes sense to do a workshop and we can shoot an email out or we can talk about it at the next meeting, like when it makes sense to do those. We should do at least 2, I think, is what I heard. One at the beginning to get input and then one towards the end of like, hey, here's the recommendation. And that's how our other process works. Like the long range plan that we do on the Wasatch Front is a 4-year process. So we meet with our workshop, we do workshops with our cities and counties once a year, every fall. And then they come along, last workshop, they provided input. This next one, we're gonna say, hey, this is what we heard from you. We digested it all. Here's a list of projects we think are needed by 2055. And then they'll review that. And then next year in 2026, we'll get a workshop that says, here's when when we think the projects are needed within that in 10-year decades. What do you think? And so this is just a condensed version, right? It's doing that all in one year. And so we'll need to just figure out how to get the input right up front and then review the final before you guys all make a decision. You'll want to get that input from everybody, I think.
Perfect.
Did I capture that correctly?
I wasn't
Oh,
listening.
no.
And this is just backtracking. Jordan let us know that those calendar invites for the new member orientation haven't gone out yet, which
Oh,
is
I
why
got
you,
one.
did you get one? They said they're going out next week through something called Constant Contact.
Interesting. Why they're waiting so long. I'm surprised they haven't got it out to,
You're an essential.
you get it on people's save the date
Essential ones are
early.
now.
There's nothing special about me.
But I made sure that to have.
You might have added it on your own, or maybe we sent you one. I don't know.
I got it.
Okay.
Let me hunt it down. What was it called? Like 101?
Oh,
WFRC 101 new membership orientation.
yeah.
27th, I think.
I was sent a calendar request.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Want me to forward it to you? I'll just.
I'm sure I
see
have it on my
Yeah,
calendar.
you might have gotten, I don't know how they're.
Went to like 1 million people.
Interesting. Maybe we're updating it or sending a new one to some
Yeah.
new members, who knows?
I'll send it to Jane.
Is above J and I.
Oh, if only I got to name my kids. It would have been cool. The poor names I would have given.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're good on the. We kind of skipped around on this, so did we miss anything on timeline or tasks? Everybody comfortable with getting this done in a year? Anything that I
So-
missed on?
And it could be that I have roles and responsibilities messed up. This is not the group that does the review of Q3 and,
Mm-mm.
no, okay.
That'd be the COG working group, right? So we do have a calendar, I know.
It's the same damn thing.
It's the same group, but at the COG working group, we don't have to record the meetings. We don't have to have public input. We don't have to take official minutes. So the RPO, we have to do that.
The
And
same group, but two different
yeah,
meetings.
well, here's also a thing. So the city and the county are paying a little bit of money to WFRC to help with Che and I to do the help with the long range plan. The COG working group is really ran by you all, and Che and I are coming to help anything that we can with getting information or help with the prioritization process. But the COG working group is, I'd say, mostly led by the city and the county. And we're more on the side of that one, where the RPO, we're kind of leading that one. And I just think the RPO is more formal. We have to have all those official, we have to send out the meeting, like the agenda 24 hours in advance. We have to have public comment. We have to have the minutes. We don't have to have that for the working group. The working group's focus is just to assist in anything that the COG needs help with on a technical level. Here's the schedule for the COG working group. Let me.
Tony Smalls.
So you can swear in the COG working group.
Where in whatever one I so choose.
Okay, so the COG here's our overall yearly schedule. Let me,
So the
So-
reason we have COG working group, so this is a standalone committee.
Yep.
Created by interlocal agreement. The other one is we decided we have the same 5 people around the table. No matter what, but we took the burden of the COG, so it's the COG's responsibility to prioritize Q3
Mhm.
or Q3. Sorry, I said that backwards.
Same thing.
Yep, so we said we'll just use the same couple people as a working group to propose to COG. So in COG meetings, we're not doing, here's a list of projects, how do you want to rank them? What's all the ranking criteria? Because it's technically.
Semantic question, can we close this meeting and enter into that meeting so that it's at least at the same day?
they will be at the same, so.
Same
oh,
time, same date, just.
The group meets monthly, pretty much. It's just every quarterly, roughly, every third meeting is an official RPO. The other 2 meetings are COG working groups. So here is the current
Do you
schedule.
still need
So
my other 2, you still need Brett, Josh,
I would,
and my 2 commissioners for that?
that would be
I
up to.
heard squirrels
Right,
here.
right. I think it would be good for
Okay,
them to be part of this conversation for the Q3, the border preservation, any other things that come up that the COG working group looks at. Like, those are the 2 main things that have been of recent, but there might be other things that you all as a, call it a COG technical group or whatever, want to have them inputting. So,
so
hey,
where's,
here's the schedule right now. So we did January
okay, so it is every month and we're calling it the RPO meeting. It's
in the
in the
agenda.
calendar. It's
Right,
just,
we need to get Jordan to fix that because it's getting
Okay.
confused. I thought I had told her to
my brain
make
is
the
swimming
official
in
one, so I have this
chemotherapy.
crafty.
So I don't,
So the next
I'm not the
March,
brightest star in the
March is
sky
a
right
COG working group. And we put, these are potential things that we put down as agenda items. So in the COG working group there, we said, can we get an update on the Mountain Green interchange?
Lance understands.
Possibly, depending on where they're at.
Because he's in charge. Lance gets it.
Yeah,
So I feel confident.
he'll keep you in line.
He
Well, I
runs,
understand the schedule, but I sometimes am not sure which we're doing.
Yes, that part, because we switch them sometimes. We,
These guys are here.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do.
But the RPO is
Well,
the
that's what-
RPO is the joint, the plan where we're
Yeah.
talking plan. The other one is projects where we're talking.
Projects.
Right.
The
And
one-
anything else. So like in May, I have no items on the COG working group. So I'm gonna rely, if there are things that we all need to talk about or not, we can cancel them too. That's the nice thing. Like, we don't have to meet, like,
Depending on what comes up in COG.
Right.
May or may not have anything to work on.
so in April timeframe, sometime we'll reach out and hit you all up and say, what agenda items do you have? So please, like, think about that. And if we don't need to meet, then we don't need to meet. Like, we all super busy. But if there are things that came out of the previous COG meeting or whatever, like, let's meet with them. We had in June and July, pulled together the third quarter list, right? So like, this is where the COG working group comes in. So I think we had adjusted the RPO schedule to match when we want to pull together the third quarter project list. And then when we want to review them, and do the recommendations. And then that way in August, I think we're trying to get out ahead of the COG schedules so that the COG can review those and approve them. So we switched, I think, the July and August RPO COG meetings here. So this is kind of the schedule, but yeah, just plan, monthly meetings is the MO. It's just, there's usually four RPO meetings in a year. And we can send out that schedule to everybody if that helps.
It's fine. I was just trying to figure out why it was the same group, but it was different, but they meet. And that's all that
Yeah.
matters is I already have the calendar request and therefore I don't have to shuffle.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. And now I understand and Lance is in charge.
But where did that go now? We had so many tabs open. See all those? There we go. Okay, so went through the timeline tasks. Anything else you can think of that we need to pay attention to on that? Public input, like, we want to get the city council, county commission input, potentially other staff members within each agency. Public input, do you guys think, at the end, get the
So-
input of the public? Like, here's what we think. Do it before that, whatever, the October meeting, sometime in probably September, so that we can take input, address any if we need to.
I think a little break for us. So we just did our general plan, which had public input, and we're doing a downtown area plan and master trail plan. That's, that we've just, I don't want to public input people to death.
Right,
We've had a lot of public input and we have two more. Like, this is the scenarios we came up with. So we still have two more public input meetings.
mhm.
And so I just worry if we go straight into back to back that we've exhausted people.
It's already shrinking the number of people that are.
Yeah,
You're getting overload.
participating. Well, and now it's,
Is there synergy, or is there things that we can piggyback on, right? So like, hey, we want to get public input on A,
the,
B, C, and D, come out. This is the one time to give your input on all these things versus like, hey, in 2 more months, we're gonna come for C, and in 3 months, we're gonna come for, these other items.
I don't know, because ours is specific to a specific area in the city. And so
Mhm.
I think countywide would be a different effort. So I think public input needs to be a county effort. And in our regional plan, we're gonna be limited to State Street and the way we interact with the rest of the county, and we're looking at the main corridors and stuff like that. We're not gonna get into neighborhood
Okay,
level stuff.
right.
So I think the public input just needs to be county-wide.
Like does September make sense then? If you guys are gonna review all this and approve in October?
Guys have any public input stuff going on?
We will, but we don't currently have them. We haven't finished drafting the RFP yet.
I mean, we could put it as like a tentative and then
Yeah.
like in July or whatever, whatever, April, we could just check in each time, like, does this still make sense? Are we still on track? Are there conflicting things? Or places that we can match them up with and just get input on two birds with one stone type of thing.
Yeah, and invite the elected officials to that same workshop. That'll bring them all up to speed. If nobody else shows up, at least we have our core group. But September, I think just having a gap there would be good for us.
Okay. Maybe just making little notes in here and we can get this updated.
I have a question
For sure.
in October. What are we looking at as far as performance measures? I'm trying to think of like what that means as far as project, because we just do, like, it's a project, we either do it or we don't.
Right.
On transportation,
We don't have to, that's another piece. So when we do performance measures for the
what are
the
you?
big plan, we look at how much access to opportunity are there? So like, did we improve the ability for people along the Wasatch Front to get to jobs or educational opportunities? Do we improve?
Have a way to measure those, or?
There is a state, it's a project level. We have a tool, an ATO tool that you can plug each project in. I think it's available statewide. That you just put in the information and it could provide it. We could look at some like safety performance measures. We could look at, are we relieving congestion? So that's part of the question is like early on is like, what performance measures do we want to look at as this group? And we can brainstorm some ideas and decide, and then we can say, okay, we'll take a crack at doing those.
We can analyze them. We can analyze them and look at, hey, here's whatever X problem with traffic volumes, or like when we go over, if we have time today to go over it. When we look at like the safety and combined with the projects on the map, we can go,
But it's post-project where you look at the
yeah.
performance of, and you guys have, as long as you guys have a handle on that, I'm fine with it. We just don't do that as a city, right?
Yeah, because it's something that, like, when I looked at the safety data, it was you pulling a map together of where the hot spots are, what the ratings are for the roads for bike, pedestrian, and vehicle, and kind of where there's been like fatalities and
Well, that
items
makes
like
more
that.
sense. But like we did that bridge was a huge project, and we know that it made traffic better on Young and State Street intersection, but we didn't do like, hey, was it 30% less
Afterwards.
traffic, or we don't know the traffic count on Young Street Bridge, or, you know what I mean? Like we just do a project because we know it's needed, and then we feel good about it because we got it done.
And I mean, I don't know for like,
But it's a lot of extra work to try and.
Yeah, I'm looking at the current long-range plan
Regulations.
here. And what I could do is we can make sure we send the current plan out to everybody, just so you guys can look at it and get your head wrapped around what's in the current plan.
Long range plan,
Yeah,
or RPO plan.
the current RPO plan.
Yeah.
So I'm looking real quick to see. So we have a lot of data. Where's it loading? Think. Then we have the recommendation. How we scored them. So a lot of this is just going to be a review of how the last long range plan here, does it still make sense to score them or weight the project? Is that how we want to look at the prioritization? We have a list of projects, right? Possible funding sources. I don't know if we did performance measures. I guess that's
I don't think we did.
okay.
That's why I was not familiar with the term.
this way we can pick out what you guys think is important and then explore, whatever those categories would be a little bit further.
Well, they'd be based on our prioritization, right? So it's like if we scored safety and we're trying to
Right.
improve safety, then
Super
that's
high,
your,
then that
then
could
that's
be-
your performance measure.
Right.
Yeah,
Or connectivity,
Right.
or modes of transportation.
yeah.
And we don't have to, again, this is the group that would make the decision of like, does it make sense to, or are we just happy with let's get a list.
Well,
Let's not
part-
waste time trying to do performance measures.
So-
We have a set amount of projects. We evaluated them.
Part of my concern is the amount of effort for the value. So you do a project, so like we did the bridge, I'll just stick with that example, right?
Mhm.
Say we do beforehand, we think it's gonna reduce traffic by 60%. We build the bridge, the study comes back and says we only reduced it by 30%, not 60%. We're not gonna go remove the bridge.
Right.
You're right, yeah.
So in my world, like on performance measures, if you're not hitting your targets, then you make another adjustment or something like that, where we're talking about a fixed, like if we build a trail and it doesn't do as much as we thought it was gonna do, it's not gonna change the outcome of our next
Yeah.
project.
Still gonna build whatever next trail or,
It's not gonna it's not gonna have an impact on funding. It's not gonna have an impact on it's just, well, we built it and we don't need to prove to ourselves whether it was worth it or not, because we decided it was worth it
Right.
before we built it.
And maybe that comes out in the evaluation, right? If like, here are the priorities, here's how we're gonna score and weight. Maybe that information's enough for the
Yeah.
group to make a decision.
I look at more like,
Specifically in the Wasatch Front, when we do performance measures, sometimes it's an educational component where we're trying to change a mindset of not just roads, right? Not just widening. We're trying to get people to think about active transportation, about public transportation with buses and trains and everything. And so it's like, the solution doesn't have to always just be widen the road, but like, here are some benefits to
yeah, well,
making it a little bit more balanced system. It's
Well, and
different
you're-
up here in the county and the city of Morgan, more rural, right?
well, and yours is more on a larger scale, you're more stats driven, like
Mhm.
if you're looking at commute miles, pollution
Right.
or access to public transportation or
right,
like.
And we have 60 cities that all have their own priorities, and so we have to have something out there.
And you're
that
trying to connect
stay.
all of these dots, right?
Right.
But you're looking at an overall, where do we put a focus? So if you're gonna say pollution's an issue, then you've got you got commute miles, you've got or public transportation, you've got active transportation, you've got some adjustments to make on where are we gonna focus on that goal, and ours isn't enough data doesn't drive the decision as much.
right.
We're just,
Which does make sense, like to what you're saying of it, if it's not needed and you guys can just be like, we know that we don't need to see whatever the data is afterwards. We know what will work and what doesn't, because you guys know best, right?
Yeah, and I think you're moving thousands of vehicles
People,
and we're moving
tens.
tens to maybe 100. But it's still, like Ty's saying, it still may not have hit the percentage of what we thought it would be, but it's
It's doing
better.
what the intention
It's
was.
better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
internally, we're getting into the data as far as like, we have a software program that tells us the condition of our roads. And do we want to hit 70%? Do we want to hit 80%? And it has a number associated with funding, but I don't think that equates to the same thing as a regional. Like we have our own priorities,
Okay.
but we know what we're trying to get.
Yeah, and really.
That's
the
a maintenance issue. That's not a capacity issue, and that's not a connectivity issue. That's just simply what's our own standard for how good our roads we want to.
And if we had anything to do with the regional thing, it would be the interstate
Right.
running through
Yeah.
the county.
So,
Participation, right?
yes, anyway, thanks for that. I just looking ahead a little bit,
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good
Again,
feedback.
sometimes my head gets down in the weeds of like how much detail, what's the level? But this is good feedback.
Yeah.
So I did make some comments in here. What we can do is update this and then in the next couple days, and then we'll send it back out to all of you just to get your eyes on it to make sure we're squared away. We'll include, like the couple workshops, we'll include public input, some time, like at least a month. We can figure out all the dates and the schedule, working with you all on when we want to get the workshop input from everybody, and when we want to get the, Ryan might want to bring up a couple other people from the region, just to hear. They were really good working with that or our other workshops in the Wasatch Front, so. Cool. What is? Not that one.
Okay, do you feel the same way in the county on performance measures? Okay. He's only speaking for the city, so it's like, I don't know if you guys have metrics that you're trying to hit transportation licenses. Okay.
Perfect. All right, so we've covered A, B, D, and E, I think. So now we just have C. So I think the last bit of our agenda here would be Chase printed off some maps, and then were you gonna go over the safety online, or how did you want to do?
Yeah,
the
so we
safety
can do
information?
here, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll share mine.
But we've got a couple new tools, right? There was the US RAP that we'd used before for safety. And now we have the comprehensive safety action plan.
Yep. Yeah, which you guys
Um,
took part in, right? Did they,
I think that the counties, the cities.
yeah, it would've
we
been
went
with
out to
Brent.
workshops.
this is Brent Crowler?
Yeah. It should,
Um,
we can send it, we'll send this information to you
Yes.
too, as like in a follow-up email.
so
Like the crash data or something?
Yeah, there's crash data and some other crash information. It's not only based on the,
SS4A.
yeah,
Yes.
stuff, the
Yeah.
conference,
Yeah.
yes, SS4A stuff.
So what we have here, and you can see, and there's a couple different layers that we can look at. So we can, and there's a lot, so if I turn them all on, it's kind of a lot to look at, and we can zoom into whatever area you guys want to look at inside of Morgan County. But basically, what this data is showing is, so right now I have let's see, should be popping up. I think I need to zoom in a little
There you
bit
go.
more. Okay.
I was wondering about that. The intersections, like, it didn't pop up for me the other day, but I didn't realize you had to zoom in at
Yeah,
a
you have
certain
to zoom
level
in
and then it
more.
turns them on.
So this CCR data is the critical crash rate. Basically what it does is it observes a crash rate of a location to the expected crash rate based on similar areas with similar traffic conditions. And the way that it's scored is a positive location, or a location with a positive critical crash rate indicates a higher than expected crashes and a potential for safety improvement. So the larger the CCR value, the larger potential to improve safety. So if you were looking at, let's say safety was a priority, basically these areas here, and then there's one in Morgan. I want to say that's it for inside of Morgan County. It's basically these 4 spots were selected as, there we go. Important intersections to look at for safety. And so this one had an 8, which I don't recall exactly what the scale goes up to, but that was a higher number. And when you look at, and it is done to look at rural, like rural to rural. So it's not like comparing it to Salt Lake City where it would be, be drastically different. And so what we wanted to do with this information, and then I'll close this down, and we can look at, there were some priority local streets. So this map had these, I think it's just, and then one over here.
So that's the frontage road along,
Cutoff road.
yeah.
Um, But these were basically these are priority areas where there could be safety improvements. And this as well was another sign, or another, mapping of those kind of local roads, basically. And we have the vehicle ratings and the pedestrian and the bicycle ratings. So when we're looking at that, this.
And that's the
open
US
up the
RAP
legend.
information.
And this is this is the US RAP data. So 5 is basically saying it is good. It's a good candidate for safety measures. And then, let me make sure I have that right. Yeah, so, excuse me, it's the other way around. 1-star roads have the fewest safety-related designs and 5-star roads have the most safety-related control features. So 5 is good and 0 is basically bad. So most of the roads in the Morgan area are pretty good. And for vehicle ratings. So we can go into pedestrian ratings, and again, it's kind of the same thing, like the scores are pretty high. There's a couple of like 3-star roads.
So the dark blue there up by Mountain Green is a 1.
Yeah,
and
so this
Trapper's
up
Blue
here
per
is
ped,
1.
right? Cause like,
Yeah.
you could imagine you're trying to walk or ride a bike up Trapper's Loop.
Yeah,
It's
they
not-
didn't leave a shoulder.
Not good, right? So this says high speed, there's no dedicated route, whatever.
Because there's guardrail. If you hit a bicyclist in between a car and a guardrail.
Walking a hard place.
Usually
But-
not good.
But on the way to East Canyon, you hit a car or hit a pedestrian, it just goes over the edge.
Yes.
So it's,
You might
Scroll
survive.
down the
little
East
bit better.
Canyon, go down. Yeah, you can see those are 2s, and there's actually a 1 up there by the actual reservoir. But 1 and 2, I mean, and
oh,
most of that road is not great, right? Probably no shoulders,
yeah.
just 2 lanes of traffic going up,
I'm a little
What is it?
surprised 66 doesn't rank higher.
Yeah,
like,
it's.
Worse or
really
better?
narrow.
Look at pedestrian as
Oh,
well,
I'm
or so
still-
this is for
that
bicycle.
Surprises me. that-
okay, so there's bike and then there's ped.
Yeah, there's bike and
Width
ped.
of the road is, I'm surprised that big.
Maybe, I mean, because it is, like as Chase said, these are kind of in a scale for rural. And maybe it
Yes.
has something to do with the
Yeah.
speed too, so, I mean, what's the speed limit going up to East Canyon from here, like 40s?
You're 30, then it goes to 40, then it goes to 50.
45 or something.
No, it goes to 50 and then it drops down to 40
Okay.
up there farther. And then you end up with some 30s, I think, up around the dam.
And maybe if it's taking that into consideration, I don't know all the details of it, like why. What we can do is we can get it, we have the access to the US RAP information and you can click on each of these segments and it'll give you safety measures, like safety recommendations. My guess is on most of this is either gonna be speed or shoulder or a
But on our
facility.
own plan, can't we adjust our own?
Oh, for sure, this could be
Yes.
definitely a priority.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
a starting point, but we could say our local knowledge says this is how we.
It's a top priority or
Yeah,
not.
because it really just gives, let's say it's a 1-star and it's for cycling. It just gives recommended, you could do, I don't know, A through Z. And here are kind of the different options and costs associated that are kind of a general term or a general number. And yeah, but again, it's not, I don't know, it's not a hard line of like, you should do blah, 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 because again, you guys are gonna know.
Well, and once we get into it too, I think you look at the priority, so like. Bicycle. You
Mhm.
use Strava data locally, then this is like a main,
You see where all people are
this is a
riding.
main route, so. It might rank low as the facility might rank low, but for us, we might say this is a nightmare waiting to happen because we.
Whatever people are riding their
It's a
site.
very popular
bicycles.
route.
Yeah.
Like we can combine our own local knowledge to.
And this is just one
Data, yeah,
data point, right? This is safety.
yeah,
I mean, like you said, you can look at other
oh, yeah.
indicators to kind of make an assessment. So keep that in mind as I'd probably even say your local knowledge trumps most of the data. The data will help like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh, I didn't realize. But I think for the most cases, you guys know where most of the issues are.
There was
in your hand, right? And so you'll be able to
That
help
score-
us.
Excuse me, and that score is just in comparison to other rural communities of similar.
Of similar size.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not necessarily- okay.
There was, and I had it open and I closed it. I'm trying to find where it was and I wanted to share, if I can't find it in a second. I will find it and then share it with you guys, but it was, they had basically where UDOT has a website where all bicycle crashes have been noted. And they have it has an interactive map with it. And so that was when we're looking at for safety projects, that was another map that I thought would be a good idea that we could look at when we're like, okay, hey, we want to put a project, if you guys wanted to put a project here or there, and you know with the Strava data that that's where accidents have occurred, or that's where, you know, it's a popular route, and then UDOT has noted that accidents have occurred there. Kind of just gives a little bit more insight into where items could go. But yeah, so I had pulled this together, and basically what it was for was just to give a little bit of insight into where hotspots could be for intersections and then for bike and ped. And again, that this data is, you know, rural to rural, and it's not comparing it to like Salt Lake City or Murray or what have you. So I can send this out and we can explore it, or maybe during a COG working group, we can really take a deep dive and I brought
Or
this
the
map.
data. Yeah, I'd say let's roll out the map now and just see if there's anything
Wanna-
that stand out.
Want to move the tables?
Yeah, if we can.
Yeah, but I brought this just so if we wanted to go over,
Might have some locked wheels, but
Yeah, up or down?
to unlock,
They'll still push you.
even though the wheels are locked. I'm gonna tip
There we
over.
go.
And the heater finally works in this room.
yeah.
I tried. I only use colored ones. I only use colored ones.
How does look at your own?
That's how my staff knows that I actually signed something. It's just pink or green or.
Okay, so the idea was that, and I don't know how we want to look at this, because I know we're kind of a little short on time, but.
We got 10 minutes. I mean, this is the only item left that we need to
Okay.
cover, so.
So if we want to look at it by vehicle, ped, and then bicycle, we can do it that way. I feel like it's probably
You have the list up, Che. What might make sense is,
with the project list.
yeah,
also.
there's three,
Yep.
there were 3 pages that, or 4, that you all had come up with. So that when you look, okay, what's this project on Trappers Loop, then we can say, well, there's a, right of way needed, there's additional study needed, possible bike facility. So the projects on Trappers Loop, bike facility, and then possibly, and then widening it 1 lane in each direction. So that was a recommendation the last time,
From us? from-
as part of the
okay.
Morgan County RPO project list.
So these are not like based on reality. There's no.
Some of
way,
them can be, but,
Right?
um,
Am I wrong?
So I'm just curious, they talk about Trappers Loop and widening and adding lanes. Is that to make bikers or is?
That would be one part of
actually
it.
needs- I look at that thing, man.
They
There's
did it
2
with-
separate
They just
projects.
need- They just need to figure out how to get the bikers off the road on their own road to
Mhm.
Huntsville. That'd be cheaper than trying to.
So are we talking about
Wow.
Trappers Loop or are we talking about? Old?
There's another old Trappers Loop, there's another project for the old Trappers Loop, so
The
this, the
31
first
minute.
project, Jay, if you wanna pull that
Yeah, I was
list
just
up and make it
curious.
really big and zoom in.
It's like the old highway, expanding it,
So the
adding.
first project's a bike facility, so you can see that there. The second project is widening 1 lane and travel in each direction.
But that's Trappers Loop? or
Yes,
that's-
Trappers Loop, SR 167.
Okay, so that's,
And then you can see the third project there is Old Trappers Loop, so that's the,
The old
That's a
dirt
dirt.
road.
that's a
from-
dirt.
right, yeah. And that would be to, put a
Okay,
trail
so I'm
along
looking at
it.
1970. That's the one that's $31 million. Was the estimate.
1970.
Yeah.
Oh, the old highway road from Trappers to 300 North Bike
Expanding it
facility.
by 6 feet.
It was
Yeah, that would be the, what was that?
Peterson.
Like it's.
Which one?
No, it's literally the whole.
Oh, the entire thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we'd recommend is like, if you guys don't, if this group, right, maybe some new people who are on the table that weren't part of the old RPO, Ryan's a new person, I am, Che, I, and Kate's new to this. Mayor, I don't remember if you were part of the old one or not. If you guys don't think, if you want us to take a look at the widening of Trappers Loop, I am sure Ryan and his team have a sense of how much traffic, what the impact is gonna be, what been putting the new interchange at the mouth of at Mountain Green there. With the Olympics coming, the other development stuff up on either the Morgan side or the Weaver County side, like, we can do some looking to see if it still makes sense to move that forward, or do we remove it from the list, right?
And on the current long range plan, or unified plan, it's got a couple of different pieces. It's got climbing lanes, and then it's also got a widening, both of them being widening, but they're in phase one need, but unfunded. Well, one's phase three.
Okay, so one of it's
they're
climbing, and then
unfunded.
what's the other one?
Yeah, the climbing lane's the first piece as you come up out of.
Okay.
And then the other one is a widening.
So they do have the widening project as part of the state's plan. So the state has looked at it and
But that
Put it
one's
into their
phase three
plan.
Need unfunded.
Right. So it's down the
yeah.
road. It's like in 30 or 30 years or more.
But it's on the plan as identified, and what happens, I think, is that, you know, need climbs is then it gets in that prioritization list, right, and starts to score higher in that prioritization.
So maybe,
So the
Is there
climbing
any
one
way
comes from the
we
old
can-
highway up past your current development, or the county's development, that Trappers Loop neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm just.
So
well, I-
Raylene, that's my commissioner that's gonna be on this, like she has some actual wants and needs that are
Oh, yeah.
actually doable.
Okay.
Not shoot the moon.
so I would say maybe on this project, like, let's review volumes. We can look at the statewide travel model.
They're just updating that now with the.
So is the old loop all private?
So, That's, I'm just coming from, granted, it's been quite a few years, but I've done a lot of work up over in Huntsville. I'm doing, moving equipment, heavy haul, hauling dirt over.
So the question is,
If you get bikers off of Trappers Loop, you solve a lot of your traffic problems. You know,
We'll take the stuff, I think, from the UTN as one component of it.
Where is that?
Not yet.
Really, it's not bad.
Is that-
Go with bikers.
We'll want to do. So question came up, hold on real quick, Jay.
Yeah, and this is the climbing lane piece here that's yellow, and then that's the widening.
So
You're climbing that first drain.
Have an estimate on what
That's
like
it.
a
That-
total
they've
line
identified it as
highway
a-
road
Add a climbing.
would
lane.
cost.
$31 million.
Which would still be.
When
widening,
that doesn't
bigger avenue,
include the
so you
acquisition of land.
get Slower traffic,
What is the right of way?
trucks and stuff off of that.
You have 60 feet on Old Highway Road?
Right, vehicles, stuff like that.
this list doesn't have costs, so I'm not sure.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It's a interesting read.
Well, that's some of the stuff where you
Yeah.
almost
That's
got.
bike facility one. Okay.
There is a.
So
bike
Kate had a
lane.
good question, Ryan.
Bike lanes.
Kate had a good question is, how is this gonna incorporate the Utah Trails Network stuff?
Yeah.
And in the next RPO meeting, hopefully we can get somebody from the Utah Trail Network. Cause they just did workshops, they're
Yeah.
digesting all the input they got.
So their intent is to do kind of the same process and get everything that's on the Utah Trail Network in the long range plan as well.
Right.
So
So,
get it all on the same map and have it be a component of the same unified plan. So
Is-
those are all identical.
so we want this map to be consistent with the Utah Trail Network and with your active transportation plan. So this county and the cities have active transportation plans. Now, this plan may not include all the tiny little trails that would connect within Morgan, right? Like to the city park or to wherever, right? But this is like, think big picture, big regional trails. So we'll want to include Utah Trail Network and the city and county's more regional type of systems. Does that help?
Yeah,
I think.
I'll get read you offline.
Okay. Are there, okay.
So.
But
for
if you have
instance,
input on some of these
Morgan
projects
County's
that-
active transportation plan, it prioritizes the old highway and then this other trail out in the flats.
We
And-
haven't tried for the old highway. There was one
Yeah.
person one
Yeah.
that wants the old highway road trail, which
Right.
is $31 million.
Yeah, and so those are prioritized higher than the one that they've kind of been pursuing, Josh and those guys.
Which is my frustration.
So it's a little bit in
That's not
conflict
my
with your
county's
active.
plan. That is someone else's plan.
This one?
And how do I fix that?
Even though
This
it's called the
plan right
Morgan
here?
County.
Yes.
So this was the RPO plan that this group came up with
Oh, I'm aware.
3 or 4 years ago, right? So,
But that's not the.
if there's
county's
input,
plan.
understood, yes. So what we need to do is if Kate, if the county's priority or does not want this facility, I will tell you, I was at the meeting with the Utah Trail Network, and there are a few, I sat at the Morgan table, because it was Morgan,
Josh.
Weaver, Davis,
Yeah,
Josh,
Josh
and a
was
couple other. They put this on there, they put the connection down, 84 that connects into South Weber. It'll be interesting to see. Now, don't let the price tag scare you. Partly, it scares you if the county's gotta pay for it, right? But also know that the Utah Trail Network has $45 million a year to build projects on the Utah Trail Network. So if it doesn't get put on the Utah Trail Network, it won't qualify for the 45 million. So this is a weird, like,
No, you keep it on your list.
you keep it on your
even though you
list, but it
can't
may not
afford
be
it.
your priority to spend $30 million on, because you may not have the 30 million, but what it
I'm
does
not
is
really
open it up.
concerned about the price tag.
Okay.
I'm more concerned about,
So
I told them the only way that particular one would go is if a county commissioner went door to door on
Mm.
both sides of Old Highway. Do you want this, yes or no? Your yard or your neighbor's?
Oh, because it needs the right of way to take somebody's front yard.
That's a non-starter.
I went down through this real quick, looking at the GIS stuff, and you've got 60 feet of right of way.
That doesn't mean that they want to give up half their driveway for a trail.
Because right now it's just a right now it's just a
Just 'cause we
2-lane.
have it doesn't mean that-
Well, and Kate brings up a good point. Like this one, for instance, has a lot of driveway conflicts, you know, for a trail. Where
Drainage.
other ones on the other side of the interstate have less conflict points.
On the.
Oh, is it this side or this one?
That's Old Highway.
Oh, so this is the one you're worried about.
No, the Old Highway
On
one.
that side.
Okay, this
So
side.
that's why they piecemeal this
Like the-
one, because it was.
Yeah, this trail here, and then they also are exploring the one that.
Is that right then, when I wrote driveway conflicts
Oh, yeah.
and then right of way available? So we can look at that to see.
And I guess I bring it up only because this plan and the Utah Trail Network, everybody wants to be in harmony with your active transportation plans, right? So they look at those, and when they have those on there, right, so it's updates possibly to your active transportation plan to say, hey, this isn't our priority, you know?
I
And-
have
and-
those.
And we need to shuffle. And that's why, like Josh sent you the image of the map he drew on.
Yeah.
And that was when he presented at a commission meeting. That's the map that they used at that workshop, and they were drawing on all those.
And I would trust Josh's plan, because he's my ATAB guy,
Right.
over what's on that right now. And that's why I'm like, how do I correct? that?
So maybe, so what we need to make is, match tab recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, because the active transportation plan, like we said, is not necessarily in harmony with kind of where priorities are.
because
Maybe we
this
should say-
was a transportation plan that talked about actual intersections, lighting. That's one thing, but this is like bike trail,
Yeah.
and it does not match my trail plan.
Right. And there's a table at the bottom or in the back, the very last page of that active transportation plan that prioritizes them. And I wonder if it's not an update to that to like reprioritize, like I say, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Just to,
So what we can
that's
also.
the reference that everybody will go to say, well, what is their active transportation plan? You know, and we want to make sure we're in harmony with what the county wants. This is a good
Right.
exercise. I mean, it's.
So at the next RPO meeting, we do have on our agenda, and this came before we even put the schedule together. We wanted to review the Utah Trail Network, review what's in the new county and city plans, because I think you all have new active transportation plans. And maybe that, in that meeting, I mean, new relative, right, in the scheme of, I mean, there's cities that haven't updated their plan for 2 decades,
And for
right?
the
So
city, a lot of.
2 years is a pretty short amount of time, or to be close.
We're close.
Yeah.
Well, and I met with our active transportation folks just last week, and they were talking a lot about sometimes, well, especially on the city level, those can be sidewalk gaps, right? Those can be priority, you know, connections for not just trails, but pedestrians, you know, that they're starting to analyze a lot of that, like, hey, we have a missing sidewalk between these
So
with the
that's
school and this
one of the
location.
project that we're doing right now. So we adopted a new road standard. So on a 66-foot wide right of way road, then our standard now is an 8-foot. It's called sidewalk/trail.
I like a shared use.
Well, so it's an 8-foot concrete trail, right? But that's our road standard now, because we only have a few areas where we have a 66-foot. So Young Street. So over time, when we replace sidewalk, and we're doing a stretch right now,
I remember we talked about that in our last meeting.
yeah, so our spring project is to incorporate that. So that's our standard. So regardless of our trails plan, whenever we do a road project on that cross section, we're gonna include trail, but it says sidewalk/trail right in our standard, so we count it as a
Do you
trail.
reference that in your active transportation plan too? So.
We don't have an active transportation plan,
Not yet.
not yet.
Not yet, okay.
When is that? When are you done with that?
Soon, probably April.
But will
Okay.
you?
So maybe it's
reference
the
that
same
in your
time frame
standard
as we
too
put
for
that.
those-
I don't know if it's referenced in there,
just to
but
say,
yeah,
in the 66 foot right away, that's our standard.
yeah.
Okay.
So we get a lot more detail in
Yeah.
the city, but,
Right.
you know.
All right,
It'll be a,
I mean, I don't know if it's easier to look at the map and go, what is this project? Because you guys are more familiar with these. Or does it make sense to go kind of down the list and just see if there's anything that stand out? Or are there things on here that we are missing?
I would have to do research and I would have to
Right.
bring
So-
my data.
two things. We didn't focus on the city hardly at all, because last time we did this, it was in conjunction with Weber.
Oh, it was twice.
Right, so we looked at Huntsville and we stayed a really high level. Now that we're just focusing on the county, I'd like to include more of the city.
Mhm.
So you can see, this is all we thought about the city was State
66.
Street.
Yeah.
Yep. And then,
Are there, so,
but like these little trail networks now, we have trails in the city that'll connect.
okay,
Or proposed trails. So this time when we do it, I think we could help marry up the county active,
Yeah.
the county trail plan and the city trail plan to look at those opportunities.
okay.
But
As always, right, it's that tricky balance of like, is it the city's general plan? Are we just taking the city and the county's general plan and throwing it on this and calling it the RPO plan? Or do we scrub it and it's like the higher level regional stuff and you kind of get rid of a lot of the local
Yeah.
type of things? So
Yeah.
keep that in mind as we're doing this.
yeah, so we elevate our priorities to this, but we don't give every detail. But at the same, so that was one thing, is we didn't have that available, but we didn't focus on the city.
Okay.
And last time, the county's input, I would say, didn't really represent a county perspective. It represented who was on the committee at the time.
Okay, fair. And maybe we'll do a better job this time if we do those workshops and we get more people providing input.
And,
I mean,
well, and
I don't
that's,
know the politics. I know some of them up here, but like,
but
we've got
that's
a
something
couple
we're
city
gonna,
people, but there might be city council members that have a variety of input different than what you and the mayor.
not
Yeah.
really. I think we're pretty well on the same page.
Okay, good.
At the
That's good to know.
city, because like our capital improvement list includes our transportation
Okay.
facilities, right?
Mhm.
So county-wise, it's just a matter of when those new members come on, whatever process the county goes through to say, yeah, this is our actual priority. So that's magic that Kate gets to
Mhm.
drum up, but well, she's already said like the new members are gonna have their.
We're gonna have their
wish
priority
lists,
too.
Their wish
Not
list.
just the new members, these have been our wish list, they were
Right.
just not communicated.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what we could do, maybe
And
with
they're
the,
intersections, they're not trails.
So,
I have.
so we
paved
need to,
lanes.
yeah, throw it all together, but those are two elements that I think will sharpen the.
so we have at our next RPO meeting, we were gonna go through the master plans, Utah Trail Network, city, county master plans. We're gonna review land use. We were gonna review evaluation criteria. And we took off the performance measures. So what we can also do is review this list again,
With everyone.
with everybody and have everybody do a little bit of homework, right? So what we can do is send you this map in a PDF.
Yeah.
We can make sure you have this
get
list,
the safety
the
data,
3-page list. And then if you guys can go through those and say, yay or nay, let's keep this, let's not, let's also add X, Y, Z, then that'll help us get like at least a base.
Yeah.
And then that's what we can go out with. Ryan could then look at it and say, what, you guys want 3 new interchanges on I-84? We should probably, as a state, look at that, right? This is standard practice for us, is that we always do a check and balance between the city, counties, and UDOT, in a sense, because often the cities and counties want a lot of new things, and we make sure that the state is on board. And then also, Ryan and your team, you guys can look at state improvements on here, add some things. And we want to make sure the city and the county are okay with those as well, right? Because there's often like, at least along Wasatch Front, like, oh, let's put a new freeway in here. And then the city's like, we don't want a new freeway through our city. Like, what are you doing? So it's this back and forth a little bit. So if we can all do a little bit of homework, I'll put on to our April meeting, like a re-review of the project list along with the trails, land use and project evaluation. And that way, we can all, like you said, Kate, like have a little bit of more time to digest this rather than,
Well, I need to get a form, so
Right.
I need to put it on my commission agenda, like, hey, here's what we're ranking. Here's what I think is missing. Can you please rank these so that I have an educated thing to bring back?
and Che and I will go through this too. So I would recommend all of us go through it in detail. As I look at the map too, I'm like, why is there a square in the middle of East Canyon, right? I'm like, what is going on in there? Like, what's is it a bridge? What is it? Like, I don't even know. Like, so, want to get my own head wrapped around this as well. And then, Ty and Mayor, think about regional recommendations within the city. County, obviously, there's some input going up to Lost Creek.
Yeah.
And then obviously the connection between Mountain Green and some of the canyons.
That there's a lot of little dots to fill in that we could be sneaking up on in a hurry that we need to know, like what could happen, like this road here could be potentially redone in a few years, the road to the sewer lagoons. Well, if this trail between the railroad and the freeway on the whoever's right of way, if that's something that is actually gonna happen, it probably is going to have an effect on what this road looks like. So it's like some of this, is this even feasible? Will anybody let us do this? It has an effect on that, and that's probably something that's gonna happen, kind of a reconstruct, well, depending on development or property changing hands, that could happen. Something could happen with that, I mean,
Well, we've been
anytime.
working on it for more than a year.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're probably 3 years out before UDOT gives us the property.
And
For this trail here,
Well,
It's a road.
or the road.
no, this
Or-
is a road. that's
UDOT owns a road that
Oh, yeah.
we just annexed into the city. And so we've asked UDOT, do you wanna, they didn't know they owned it, or they didn't have any reason to own it. And so they're just giving us the road, and then we're gonna ask them to improve it before they give it to us.
It's tough too, because depending on like this property here, if it was to sell and develop, then all of a sudden you're looking at a curb and gutter and a sidewalk, and you
What
know,
kind of
just gonna
sidewalk?
overlay it. Then part of me's like,
And
can we
then
just have that and we'll put it towards a bigger project rather than
It
overlay it.
develops. on the other side of the tracks, you're narrowed down to a 28-foot bridge.
But I got an update on the trail thing for my right of way. They said they just didn't talk to me this week, because they were walking out the door last week and said, hey, they met with the trails people. And it sounds like there's no space between us and, Union Pacific, and so they're like, we don't think we can break the NA line. We're not sure what Union Pacific would say, and so they said they'd meet with me this week and kind of give me an update of what they told.
And I have
Yeah,
a meeting with the
trails people.
railroad the second week of March, so
So,
that's on our list to discuss.
and it doesn't look like that's the case everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's
places
know.
where it all comes
It gets
together.
skinny, it gets fat, it
and
gets.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, we have some homework. Trey and I will send you out a few things. Send you out the schedule, we'll update it, we'll send out, the map, the project list that was on
I've
the
got a
past
couple of
plan.
meetings with Utah Trail Network about other projects, and I
Okay.
can always ask them where they are with the mapping.
Yeah, see if they
exercise,
can
they
come
have
in
anything
in
that-
April and provide an update, just kind of give them the hard sell of this is gonna fit into the RPO's long-range plan, which then ties into the state's plan. The sooner the better we can get that. If not, we can move the trail stuff, but
be
it's
good to
nice
get
to
it.
have all that input as we think about
Yeah.
the roads and the AT
I'm
down the
not
road.
concerned about what's on, what's not in the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Fair.
Kate, I also talked to the project manager for the Mountain Green thing for you. The interchange, you just said, hey, can we get an update? You know, so I went back and said, hey, can you give them an update?
Cause I met with WPR last week.
Mountain Out of Moleville, because I'm,
Oh, is that bad?
well, I just said, they just want an update. They want to know where we're at in the process. They have new commissioners. They just want to give a general update. Next thing I know, I had meetings with consultants and everybody. I'm like, it's just, I just need to give them an update, you know, and because it's where they are in the environmental document. They're like, we can't go to a public meeting. and can't
This
give any
Mountain Green, did you
information
say?
Yeah.
The interchange?
For the
Yeah,
interchange.
okay.
Yeah, they're hoping it'll be done here in the next month,
Awesome.
but, that, I said, that's all they need to know.
That's
Just
all they
say,
need to know.
This is where we're at. This is what's going on, you know, and
I didn't
they
mean,
wouldn't even do that. So maybe I just did something I was supposed to, but I was like, that's all they need to know is just, where are you in the process? When will they hear the next step? Right? And they were concerned that they'd get into the meeting and there'd be all these questions
oh, there will
coming.
be.
And then they couldn't answer them because public comment period's closed and,
Right.
you know, till the environmental document is done, and they didn't want to open up that can of worms, I think is what it was.
I just met with WPR and they pointed out something I did not even take into consideration. Obviously, our commission, the previous commission of 5 was pretty adamant about keeping the existing. And so they pointed out it would kill Heinz Country Store and it would, anyone going to Wasatch Peaks would have to go through Mountain Green, like all the way down the frontage road and then underneath to get up to WPR. So I get it. So I told Ed that this means something.
I thought Jeff Erdman was used to, I just expected him to reach out to you and say, okay, here, you know, be the commission. So,
Didn't know it's gonna shake the tree.
well, I didn't think.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a pretty simple ask, just to say, hey, give them a timeline update where things are so that they can, you know, just be in the loop and.
Okay.
Consultants kind of, I've worked with some of the consultants on other projects and I was like, it's pretty typical for them. And I was like, calm down.
Calm down.
Not giving them any details, they just need time frame to
We
get
get
it.
the emails, we just.
But yeah, Jeff Erdman, if you, you know, if I would, if you need something sooner,
No, he's got me
just plug
numbers,
in
got
and be
me
like, hey,
It's just getting them to read is hard, like, hey, here's the email that got sent out with the link and the update, but it's like 17 pages, so I can't, and it's not in a printable form with the commission packet, so
there is a web page for that
that's what it is. but
study
You can't,
and you just kind of,
I can't print it and put it in, if it's not in their packet, they don't read
they
it.
don't go there on their own.
No.
Or
All right, since we don't have a quorum, can't really vote to
So
adjourn the meeting, so we'll just end the meeting.
They just walked out for the record.
All right, awesome. Well, looking forward to working with you all on the long range plan. I think we've got the right people and we'll make it work.
Sounds good. Thanks for all your help.
Yeah, and I have no idea how to stop this
I gotta-
recording.